Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, everybody, I should say. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar series, and this is our second last webinar of this series. And we'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust to welcome you to an exciting hour, shall we say, an exciting next hour. Today's presentation is titled, how should benefit plans change in the work from home culture? And the question that I have is, should they? Really should they? And this is a really interesting subject, and I had a lot of fun putting this presentation together. But this topic was based on feedback that we received from you. So this is a little bit of a different webinar. It's not necessarily, a solution-based webinar. It's more of a question-based webinar. But again, this topic came up from suggestions that we received from you, and there was a number of people that really wanted to know a little bit more about this. So on behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust, that's the approach, that's the direction in which we're coming from in putting this presentation together. So on behalf of all of us here at the Benefits Trust, we'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for attending. At the end of the presentation today, you're going to receive a couple of things. Number one, a very short survey. Let us know how we did. We want to be able to do this better tomorrow than we did today. I know we got some feedback from the last webinar that I did, and I had a problem with my microphone, so I've changed my microphone. So that's the type of feedback that we're looking for, is to always improve these things. So please take a moment to fill out that survey. It's a few minutes long, or a few questions long, so it'll only take you 30 seconds. Fill it out. As well as that, give us ideas or thoughts on what you'd like to see covered in future webinars. In addition to that survey, you're going to also receive a 1-hour CE credit for participating. So you got to stay on to the end. And we appreciate we appreciate you staying on, and we appreciate you joining us today. So we're going to give you a CE credit for participating. In addition to that, you're going to be signed up for our Trusted Advisor newsletter, which comes out once a month. If you're not already signed up for that, you will be signed up for that. And if you have already been receiving that, we hope you will enjoy the content in that newsletter. What we do at the Benefits Trust is we help successful business owners build a better benefit plan than they can get anywhere else. It's as simple as that. It's a qualifying statement as well as a value statement, but that's what it is that we do at the Benefits Trust, is we help successful business owners build a better benefit plan than they can get anywhere else. We work directly with advisors like yourself. We do not sell direct. We work with advisors like yourself, and we work with your clients to help them build better benefit plans than they can get anywhere else. It's as simple as that. We've been doing this since 1994 for 27 years. And as I like to say, we're just getting started. We started our company on January 1st, 1994. So we're in our 27th year, and we have fun doing what it is that we do. As I like to say, we've had some expensive learning along the way, never mistakes, never mistakes. Some certainly expensive learning along the way, but we're still learning as the world changes. That's one thing that I can commit to you, that we're still learning as the world around us is changing, and learning how to do things differently, and learning how to adapt, and having to bob and weave and figure things out as things change. And we're certainly in a huge period of change right now. So we're still growing. We're still growing, that's for sure. And when I mean growing, I don't mean growing by number of clients, which we are, but I mean growing as a company and our capabilities and our ability to help you be successful in the future. My name is Robert Crowder. I'm the president and founder of the Benefits Trust. I'm the guy on the right. I'm going to be your presenter today. Also on the call is Michael Ignatz. He's the guy on the left. His camera is hidden right now because he's got this COVID beard thing happening, and he looks a little scary. But Mike's going to be our moderator today. He'll help us out with some technical issues if they should arise. But in addition to that, and you have any questions, type them in the question box. Mike will be happy to answer them right away in the chat box, or he knows that it'll be answered with the remaining time that we have in the presentation, or we'll answer them certainly offline. But reach out to us either through email or a telephone call, or right here in the chat box, and Mike will be happy to answer these questions that you might have along the way.
And my beard is beautiful, by the way.
Oh, Mike's beard is beautiful. I don't think so, but that's why he's hiding behind the camera. Okay. So really our approach today is to add value. We want to add value in your journey. It's as simple as that. You are our clients. We work with you and your clients, but really it's to add value to your practice. It's to add value to your journey. It's to add value to your advisor, your advisor business. It's to add value during these changing times. Times are always changing. We could talk about that, but things are always changing, but they've changed more rapidly in the last 12 months than they have, I think, in the last 30 years combined, especially from an employer's perspective and an employee's perspective in that relationship. So that's really what we want to talk about today. But again, our approach is how can we help you in your journey? It's as simple as that. So the future ahead. So we want to talk about what's happened in the past couple of months and in the last 12 months, but we really want to talk about where things I think are going. More importantly, I always, never did well in history class when I was in school, but I always, why do we have to learn this? This is what happened in the past. Let's learn about what's going to happen in the future and predict what's going to happen in the future. So it's about being ready for that future and about having great conversations with your clients. This is the new normal. Change, without a doubt. Change is the new normal. And it's interesting because I've heard people say in my conversations over the last year, I can't wait till things get back to normal, or is this going to be the new normal? People use normal in a crazy way, in my opinion. There's no such thing as normal. Normal is just a setting on the dryer or your washing machine at home, possibly your dishwasher, I don't know, but there's no such thing as normal. I think it's an overused word that really has no place in the English language, in my opinion. Change is the only thing that's going to happen in the future, and it's going to continue to happen well beyond my lifespan, that's for sure. So our agenda today, why you've signed up is not to hear me talk, but why you've signed up is to talk about the new virtual workspace, what it looks like, the benefits that matter for remote employees. We want to talk about benefits that matter for remote employees, because a lot of people are working remotely, that's for sure. We want to talk about dealing with hybrid work environments, because this is something that's very unique and it's really expanded over the last year. So we want to talk about dealing with hybrid work environments. And we also want to talk a little bit about changing claim patterns and potential risks for your clients. So we got lots to cover in the next 54 minutes. So let's get at it. But one thing I want to be clear on is this webinar is about talking points to discuss with your clients and prospects. This webinar is not about the answers. I don't have the answers. It's as simple as that. The only person that really has the answers is your client. So it's important to remember when talking to your clients and discussing things that are going to be covered in this webinar and other sources that you get information from, it's about these talking points, and it's really about questions, and it's really about listening to your client as well. So it's important to listen to your client. So a little bit of a disclaimer: I don't have the answers. I don't have a magic wand. There is no magic benefit formula. I can't say, hey, hold on a second, let's pull the COVID-19 plan design off the shelf and everybody should have one of these. So that doesn't exist, so there's no magic wand. But one thing is for sure as well, your clients and prospects need you. They really, really need you at this time. They need your leadership. They need your advice. They need your wisdom. They need your knowledge. They need your resource center. And it really, more time than I've ever seen, it's time to lead, and it's time to lead your clients. Every employer has a different point of view. In a lot of the presentations that I put together, we talk about the target market and we talk about our target market, and there's 50,000 employers in Southern and Central Ontario. And of those 50,000 employers, there's 50,000 different points of view. Every employer has different points of view. Every employer has the right answers, and no two are the same. It's important to realize that. One of the things that I'm finding that is just astronomically amazing to me, and some advisors I talked to, I was talking to Dave Patriarch about this. I was talking to him this morning, actually, about a number of things, but this was certainly one of them, that advisors, we're still finding businesses out there where, advisors are not talking to their clients. Businesses are not hearing from their advisors. No advisor is talking to them. It's as simple as that. It's amazing. Yeah, we don't hear from our advisor. We don't hear from our broker. We don't hear from the guy that looks after our benefits. Don't even remember his name. Like, it's crazy when you think about it, that these businesses are out there and they're floating around and they're scratching their heads wondering what's going to happen next, and they don't have a relationship with their advisor, yet somebody's making and being paid commissions on those accounts. So as a result of that, it's time to have discussions with your clients if you're not already. But I really think that COVID-19 has been the best time to prospect. And I think it's the best time I've seen in the first 30 years of my career. I'm not sure what's going to happen in the next, but I think this is the best time to prospect. I look at what's happening out there, and forget about the first month or two, but a lot of advisors have been sort of sitting on their hands saying, hey, great, you know what, I'm just going to keep things going, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time prospecting right now because we're in a pandemic. What do you want me to do, right? But I think now is the best time to prospect, and those advisors that I've talked to that have been prospecting aggressively are having the best years or the best year of their life. So it's an extraordinary time to prospect right now. And these points that we're going to discuss today are great ways to use as tools to prospect. So the new virtual workspace, let's jump into this. What does the new virtual workspace look like? Are you going to be working from home? Are you going to be working from a desk? Are you going to be working from lying in the grass in a field, when the weather gets a little bit nicer? It's a little cold for that in southern and central Ontario right now, but what does the office look like? What does that virtual workspace look like? And when you think about it, it happened really quick. Friday, March 13th, 2020. Hey, everybody, see you Monday. All of a sudden it was, everything was kind of normal. And there were some things floating around in the news about COVID, and maybe there was already a case in Ontario, but no one really knew an awful lot about it. And it certainly wasn't the top news story in the day, but Friday, March 13th, everything seemed kind of normal, and we'll see you Monday. All of a sudden, Monday the 16th rolls around, and now you work from home. That weekend blew up from a whole bunch of different perspectives. Professional sports teams were canceling seasons or putting their season on hold. Businesses were shutting down. The Ontario Dental Association shut down all of their offices. The government did a bunch of stuff. Anyways, it was amazing. All of a sudden, we went from Friday to Monday, and there couldn't be anything more black and white during that very, very, very short period of time. And that's what I mean, the extraordinary change that happened, and happened so quickly. It was amazing. So with no notice, just about no notice, or in many cases, no notice at all of a sudden you're working from home. Simple as that. You're working from the kitchen table, you're working from the dining room table, you're working from your daughter's bedroom, you're working from the basement, you're working from wherever it is that you can find a flat surface to work on and from. And this is not just you as an advisor, this is all employees. All employees are sort of in this type of realm as well. So you've got a laptop, you've got no extra monitor, your office or your workspace or your cubicle, whatever you're used to, isn't set up like it is at home. So all of a sudden you've got this big change going on in your world, and it happened very, very rapidly. It happened incredibly rapidly. It probably isn't the most ergonomically correct situation. Again, for people that haven't been working from home, they're not used to that, and all of a sudden they get to start working from home. It's not the most ergonomically correct situation in which they're working, and that creates a whole bunch of issues as well. But this is only going to be a temporary thing. Remember, this was only going to be a 6-week problem, or a 6-week solution to the problem when it happened again on March 16th. As well as that, there was a whole bunch of new home stress, because the spouses were doing the same thing, and children were doing the same thing. And sometimes, in a lot of cases, school was just postponed for a little while. So all of a sudden, children that were used to being in school were at home, and they were underfoot. Spouses are so all of a sudden you're working and your spouse is working, and you're all of a sudden everybody's working from home. And it's an amazing, all of a sudden, bomb that's been dropped. And it happened again in a very, very, very short period of time. What I think a lot of people missed was that water cooler interaction, and that's such a sort of overused term, I guess, maybe, but it's that you miss that water cooler interaction. You miss that interaction with your friends. I know it's something that I certainly miss. I certainly miss walking into Mike's office and bugging him about his beard, or I certainly, miss talking about the hockey game that happened the night before, or I miss, just being, if I've got a problem, all of a sudden it's just walking down the hallway or walking into someone's cubicle and saying, hey, can you help me with this problem? That interaction doesn't exist anymore. Now you're on team meetings and you're on Zoom meetings and so on. And it's just that interaction is not the same. So you've got all these incredible stresses at home. You got all this massive change that happened really quickly and really directly and without any warning. You've got this massive stress at home with your changing work environment. And in addition to that, you're no longer seeing your friends. You're interacting with them, but you're not seeing them. As well as that, you've got no more commute. That could be a good thing and that could be a bad thing. For me personally, I kind of like the break between the two worlds. And it was interesting when I started working from home, and I've been working my entire life and my entire adult life anyway. And I thought I'd really, really like not to have to commute. And this was sort of thrown on me real quick. And I had some difficulty getting used to it personally. I really had some difficulty getting used to it. I really like that sort of 30-minute break in between my two worlds, in between my work world and then when I got home. And one of the things that I was personally doing was getting up and I was leaving the house where I was working at for the majority of the time in Huntsville, Ontario. And I would go for a drive for 20 minutes or 30 minutes just to get out and get my head clear and then come back home and be ready to start the next chapter in my day. So no more commute is a good thing and it's a bad thing. It happens to all of us. Technology, all of a sudden there's new technology that people are being asked to use. So just another level of stress. People generally speaking don't like change. So all of a sudden you're telling them to work from home. They're working from home with their spouse and their children. They've got all this stuff going on and no more commute, no more working, no more interaction with your friends. Here's some new technology. Here's some new processes. Here's some new procedures. It's just an incredible amount of change that's gone on in a very short period of time. And then add it all up, we have to have meetings and we have to have more meetings than we had before. And they're going to be Zoom meetings. They're going to be meetings like this, where you might see the person chatting and slide sharing and all this wonderful stuff. But this happens for both personal and professional reasons. It was interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I was on a 50th birthday Zoom meeting, and it was, it was a lot of fun. But I'll tell you, it would have been a lot more fun being, with the 40 of us together in person than it was on the Zoom meeting. It was fun, but it wasn't as much fun. So we're spending all this time, and again, all of us are doing it. Students are doing it. Yes, some of them are back at school now. Some people are still homeschooling. It depends on your circumstances, but you're spending a whole bunch more time in front of your screen, professional, with these professional and personal Zoom meetings. So lots of change going on. But really, as it boils all down, you get this massive change from all different angles. It's a 360-degree change. And how does this impact employee benefits? Because we're here to talk about employee benefits. And how does this change impact employee benefits? Well, employee benefits are still vitally important. Without a doubt, employee benefits are vitally important. And this has not changed. This is one thing that has not changed, is employee benefits are still vitally important. And at the beginning of COVID-19, or March 16th, let's call that the day, March 16th, there was a lot of scrambling going on, an awful lot of scrambling that happened. And a lot of employers didn't know what the future looked like. But one of the things that a lot of employers were able to say is there's no change to your benefit plan. There's absolutely no change to your benefit plan. Think about that comforting message. When you're saying you got to work from home, you got to do this, you got to do these new procedures, you got to adapt this new technology and these new software, and you got to spend your time on Zoom, and you got to entertain your kids and do all of this stuff. But by the way, there's not going to be any change in your benefit plan or your compensation at this point of view. It was a very refreshing and comforting message. That was then. That was March 2020. It's now March 2021. This is now. Things are certainly changed. There was a quick pause. Right back in March 21 or March 2020, pardon me, there was a pause. All right, nothing's going to change with respect to your benefits or your compensation, but we need you to work from home and all this wonderful stuff. But now, a year later, guess what? This is supposed to be 6 weeks. Now a year, we don't really see, depending on which website you're looking at, there may not be that end of the light at the end of the tunnel, because the tunnel might be a long, 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 long way away. Some employers are looking at things very, very differently now, because you know what? Employers have to continue to polish their widgets. They have to continue to create value for their clients, and they're looking to how to adapt in the long term. So 2020 was a year ago. This is 2021. People are looking at things differently. Employers are looking at employees differently, and they're looking at benefits differently now. This is a fact. I've had more conversations in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks about employers looking at benefits differently now than they did a year ago, when they said, hey, whoa, status quo, everything's going to change. Let's put a comforting message out. Let's reach around to our employees and give them a big giant hug for things that we can control. But now all of a sudden they're looking at things differently. And the reason why employers are looking at employees or benefits differently is because they're looking at employees differently. A lot of employers are looking at employees differently. So when we look at the future ahead, they're looking at employee numbers. They're looking at plan design. They're looking at plan funding. They're looking at flexibility. They're looking at all aspects of employee benefit programs and employees differently. They're saying, hey, what does an employee look like? And in putting that together and putting this presentation together, it's really, what does the future employee look like? More importantly, that employers are looking at employees and employment differently. It's kind of interesting. Um, one of those, one of the tests that has happened over the last year is, can people work from home? And the answer in many cases is absolutely. So employers are looking at employment differently as well. They're saying, hey, do we need to have all of these employees, quote unquote, housed in a box? Do we need to have that? Or, you know what? Hey, employees, are businesses are looking at employment very differently as well. But the flip side is true too, because employees are looking at employers very differently as well. Employees are looking at employers very differently, and it's amazing when you think about it. Um, when we started, looking at this years ago, it was, we quickly went from how far is the commute to your office. Now all of a sudden the questions are, what time zone are you in? It's really interesting. What time zone are you in becomes a real question. And a question from a whole bunch of different mindsets, which I'll come back to in a few moments. But it really switched from a 25-kilometer search to a worldwide search in a matter of moment. A worldwide search for employees and a worldwide search for employment. So on both sides of the equation. It used to be, I'd really like to come and work for you, but there's no way I'm going to move to Thunder Bay because that's where the business is. So I'm not moving to Thunder Bay, and I'm not going to, it's way too far to commute. So I'm not, I'm not interested in that job. Where now all of a sudden, hey, I'll work from Thunder Bay. I'll work for a company that is in Thunder Bay, or I'll work for a company that is in Auckland, New Zealand, or I'll work for a company that's in Geneva, Switzerland. It doesn't really matter. It's just a matter of what time zone that they are in and how often, how does my lifestyle have to change to accommodate that time zone if I have to participate in meetings at all. So all of a sudden, employment and employees and that world is really changing. And, from both perspectives, it's the employee versus contractor route. A lot of employers, a lot of companies are looking at their employees and saying, do we really need all these employees and all the things that goes along with it? Or can we just hire a bunch of contractors? Can we hire contractors? And there's a lot of this thinking going on from both sides of the equation. And again, this has happened really rapidly because what's happened is employers, businesses have said, hey, geez, we don't need to have all these employees working from our office. So we don't need this physical space. But if we don't have this physical space, do we really need all these employees? And can we just have contractors and hire contractors? And employees are looking at it. The average employee out there is looking at it and saying, hey, geez, I don't need to go into the office. I don't need to go downtown. I don't need to rush to Markham in the traffic anytime soon. So where can I live? And do I really want to do this for this one particular employer? Or, should I become a contractor and do the things that I really like doing for a couple of employers? So this thing is changing, and it's changing on both sides, without a doubt. So as we move along, what benefits matter? So what benefits matter? Well, they all do. And back to the initial arm around the shoulder conversation, the big giant hug is a lot of employers chose not to change benefits. That was then, this is now, and the attitude was, well, don't change things when things are changing. Created that uncertainty. So on March 16th, 2020, benefits matter, like without a doubt, but change creates suspicion. So that's why there was not a lot of change, I think, in 2020. Everything was kind of the same, but now things are a little bit differently. And COVID has instantly created an unprecedented amount of change and uncertainty. We've all had, or maybe not all of us, but some of us older ones that are on the call, hello. We've gone through recessions, and we've gone through boom times, and we've gone through these periods of ups and downs over years. And, that's change. That's the world that we live in. But this particular COVID-19 change is something that is, first of all, on top of everybody's mind. You can't turn on the news or pick up the newspaper without, reading about or hearing about COVID. But it's created this amount of uncertainty, and this is just an unprecedented amount. And benefits or some benefits are certainly uncontrollable change, or some of the things that have changed are certainly uncontrollable change, with federal and provincial government, dictating to us on how we can and cannot behave, and how we can and cannot move around the world, let alone the country, let alone the province, let alone our neighborhoods. So there's this uncontrollable change that's going on, as well as, from a business perspective, and just benefit benefits are one of the things that employers can control, without a doubt. You've got all this change that's happening from all of these different environments, but all of a sudden, employees and benefits are one of the things that employers can control. But again, they're looking at the future, and they're looking at the future, and they're saying, how is it that we can value an employee and look at an employee? Some employers clearly had no choice, but they had to cancel benefits without a doubt. So you can look at restaurants and gyms and retail, and well, certainly some restaurants and some gyms and some retail. They had no choice. Their revenue went down to zero instantly, and that's going to be a long road for recovery. So those benefit plans were changed instantly. So some groups really had no control, but a lot of companies did. Many kept benefits intact as a measure of normalcy, security, positive message to employees, without a doubt. So this is all despite the too little, too late, and too much, too soon behavior by the insurance companies. It's my jab at the insurance companies, without a doubt. I think insurance companies didn't react quick enough, and they did too much, too soon, or did too little, too late by offering credits. And anyways, I've written 5 articles since COVID-19. 5 articles have been published since COVID-19 started. And you can visit those on our website. Maybe, Mike, we can fire out a copy of that with the CE credit as well, or a link to it, certainly, with the CE credit, or something along those lines. Check our past Trusted Advisor newsletters. They're in there as well. But insurance companies, in my opinion, did too little, too late, and too much, too soon. Now we're into 2021. We're a year later. A lockdown, quote unquote, is still going on to a certain extent. Yes, it's opened up a bit very recently, but it's just such a rapidly changing environment. And Toronto is still locked down until next week, but we're not sure what it's going to look like yet. Other areas are locked down. North Bay is locked down because of an outbreak. So you're going to see things change rapidly, and things change quickly, and it's not over. It's not over. I heard on one of the newscasts I was listening to recently about the 3rd wave and the 4th wave and the 5th wave and so on. So I think things are going to change very rapidly, more rapidly than they have in 2021. I think you're going to see, communities being locked down and environments being locked down because of, some of these changes that are happening with COVID. So a lot of stuff is going on. Mental health, huge part of a benefit plan now. Absolutely enormous part of a benefit plan. I'm doing a session. We're supposed to do it last week. Unfortunately, I had to cancel at the last moment because a very close friend of mine passed away unexpectedly, and I couldn't talk about mental health. I was in shock with this gentleman passing. So we're going to reschedule that session, but so check your email soon, or check our website soon as well. But you're going to see that rescheduled date. But mental health is becoming an absolutely enormous topic and an important benefit included in a lot of benefit programs. Paramed benefits are becoming essential: chiro, physio, massage, etc. Just because people aren't sitting in ergonomically great chairs, they're working in different environments. They're needing these massages and physio appointments and chiro appointments and so on. They're essential benefits, without a doubt. Long-term disability is becoming a huge benefit. It's becoming an incredibly valued benefit. Sometimes long-term disability is overlooked. They go, oh, yeah, well, I'm never going to get disabled. Like, don't worry about me. I don't need this stuff. I'm never going to get disabled. Well, now a lot of people are looking at long-term disability benefits differently, and they're saying, hey, this is an important benefit. This is a continuation of my paycheck. And I see how vulnerable I am with COVID happening right now and how vulnerable people are. So this is an important benefit. As well as that, it's a huge benefit because costs are increasing so significantly, and costs are increasing, and you're seeing that in renewals. So it's certainly top of employers' mind. Employee retention, it's becoming very important, or is it becoming very important? In a lot of cases, it always was very important. In some cases, it's becoming even more important, and in some cases, it's not as important. So again, very, very different, very, very different points of view that employers have with respect to employee retention. And it's important to ask questions about employee retention. It's important to ask questions about all the stuff of your employers, because what's important is how they're thinking about it. But some employers are very interested in employee retention, and some employers are certainly not as interested because of their changing environment. So advisors need to be working with clients and prospects on what their future employee looks like first. I think it's critical when you're talking about an employee benefit program. You got to talk about what the benefits are for the employees, and really what the client wants to promise the employees. But I think it's important to understand what that employee looks like first. And it's not the same as it was yesterday. It's as simple as that. Employers are looking into the future, and they're looking at employment, and they're looking at employees different. And they've had a significant change in or many employers have had a significant change in their mindset. It's as simple as that. So when we look at, how do we attract and retain employees? How do we attract and retain employees? Well, there's a number of different things that we can look at. But contractor opportunity, it reduces employer costs. To hire a contractor, it doesn't necessarily save in salary costs, but you're just putting it into a different column. But it really reduces employer costs. They don't have to pay for things that they might have had to pay for. But it's when you're looking at what the future employee looks like, the contractor opportunity certainly can look at reducing employer costs. The other thing is employees may have side gigs. It's kind of interesting because I know a couple of employees that have, because they've got time, they've been working from home. They've had more time on their hands. It was really interesting in the springtime. I moved to, when Toronto was locked down and so on, I moved to our cottage in Huntsville, and that's now our home. And one of the things that I found is I used to spend a lot of time on the road. I spent a lot of time on the road visiting advisors and visiting advisor clients. But if you have a meeting and it's at the west end of Toronto, you'd have to, book 3 hours off of that. Now you have a meeting and it's on Zoom and it's 30 minutes long. So all of a sudden there's an extra 2.5 hours. I found personally that I had a lot of extra time. Initially. And it's interesting because I think a lot of employees certainly found this as well. And they've always wanted to do side gigs, whether, they've had the opportunity because they've got more time to maybe hone some different crafts. And I know a lot of employees now have some side gigs. So it's kind of interesting. And long term, again, we're looking at worldwide talent pools instead of just, again, this short term, employee kind of 25-kilometer ring. So employers are looking at employees very differently. They're looking at what their future employee looks like. And I think that's important to start there first. And I think this has always kind of been on the back of a lot of employers' minds as well. But COVID has sped up a changing work environment. And a lot of employers are feeling that way is COVID has just sped things up. They wanted to go in this direction. I know we certainly did at the Benefits Trust. This is a direction that we were very interested in exploring. We didn't know how we were going to do it, but we were very interested in exploring. But how we ended up doing it is a worldwide pandemic hit, and we had no choice. So COVID has sped up the changing work environment without a doubt. So benefits matter for remote employees, or should it be benefits matter for contractors? So all of a sudden, if employment is changing and employee is changing, the benefits matter. And I always like to say, I think it's important for the advisor to have that 1 or 2 person benefit plan in your toolbox, because you're going to find yourself dealing with, I think, a lot of very small contractors in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Because as employers change how they look at their future employees, a lot of opportunities can be given. Hey, Mr. Smith, you've been working with us for 10 years or 15 years now. We want to hire you as a contractor now because you're working from home and you're in a completely different time zone now. And, whatever the circumstances are, we want to change the environment, change the playing field, change the rule book. So I think a lot of clients are going to be sending these contractors to you to look for benefits. So I think it's important to have that benefits plan in your toolbox. We certainly have one. We have one built, the Smart Employers Benefit Plan. Check it out, thebenefitstrust.com. Go to the Advisor Resource Center. It's in there, or we'll be happy to direct you to it. But anyways, so the other thing that comes up is the benefits are still really important. They're vitally important to all employees, and they're vitally important to contractors as well. But again, the employment world is changing, so we're looking at things differently. But then all of a sudden you throw into the mix, how do you deal with hybrid work environments? Hybrid work environments. And it's interesting because the warehouse is open, the office is closed, and the supply chain is open and closed. It really depends on the business. But I've got lots of clients of mine or clients of ours that I'm close with, and I know some their manufacturing facilities open, but everybody's working from. Everybody in the office is working from the office, working from their home offices, and It's interesting, some of the supply chain stuff, some of them are open, working remote, some of them are closed. It really depends on the situation. So all of a sudden, you've got this hybrid work environment that's throwing another monkey wrench into the equation, if you would. And again, this is the new normal. And you can drive around the industrial parks and you can see the parking lots. Some of them are empty, some of them are half full, and some of them are full. It really depends on the environment, but this is the new normal. It's without a doubt the new normal. And some employees are working from the office, or some employees are working in the office and some employees are working remote. So it's an interesting kind of dynamic because again, it depends on the employer. Some people are saying, hey, everybody is working remote, but others are saying, hey, you can come into the office on a voluntary basis. It's a combination of all of these things, but it's creating disparity, pardon me. It's creating this challenge, and it's a real thing. It's a real thing. There's the us versus them feelings. I know when you've got 2 offices or 3 offices or 10 offices, and head office, well, we do all the work. No, the branch offices, we do all the work. Now you've got, hey, those of us that are in the office are doing all the work, and because of the circumstances, you might be working from home because you've got childcare responsibilities, and all of a sudden, well, hold on a second, Bob over here is working from home and he's not doing anything because we don't see him. Therefore, it's us versus them. So again, this hybrid work environment is creating this disparity, and it's a real thing. It's a real thing that employers have to be aware of. Ourselves at the Benefits Trust, we've got our Vaughan office. It's now closed. We've got 1 person or 2 people working in there, to deal with couriers and mail and what have you. But it's really kind of closed. We don't allow anybody in there or visitors. Our Font Hill office is kind of open. We sort of have half the staff in one week and half the staff in the other week. And that's because they really kind of want to be there. I'm in British Columbia right now. I'm working from Whistler, British, BC. And so I'm on a 3-hour time difference. It's only 11:36 for me, but we've also got an employee in Montreal. So what's next? This is what we're talking about. This hybrid work environment is crazy, but we all do the work. But the question is, who's we? So again, it's important to have these conversations with your client, about what's going on in their office, their plant, their warehouse, their sales, their research and development, their contractors. It's important to have these conversations on what's important to the employer with this changing work environment that they're all experiencing. And what is the new normal? Again, an overused term, but what is the new normal? And the new normal, if you've got 50,000 businesses, there's 50,000 new normals. It's as simple as that. No two businesses are doing things the same. And it's interesting when you talk to your friends potentially about what they're doing, it's different than what you're doing. Different slight interpretations on things, but that's the new normal. Different benefits for different groups within the group. It's becoming more real than ever before. I've been preaching this for years now, that you got to look at different groups of people within your group and you can offer different benefits. Well, this is becoming very real today. Different benefits for different people, different groups within the group. Other benefits are becoming more important than traditional benefits for remote employees. As the employment changes and as the employment environment changes as well, different benefits become more important than those traditional benefits. So for example, a home office allowance. You only got so much money to spend, but hold on a second, I'd rather have a home office allowance potentially. That's becoming very important. An equipment allowance, for things like new laptops, internet strength, these types of things are becoming really real. We're saying to staff, hey, if you need to increase your internet, expense it to us, expense it to the employer. Right? We'd be happy to pay for it because we want you to be productive when you're working from your new environment. Remote workspaces are becoming very popular and will become more and more popular. I know before COVID-19 happened in Newmarket, I was reading an article about the Upper Canada Mall, how they created a virtual workspace for commuters that were not working in their offices on a particular point in time, but they wanted just a lounge to go into to work for an hour or 2 or 3 or 4. So it created a corporate lounge, if you would, in shopping malls. Hotels are certainly offering things differently now. Again, that, hey, I need to book a room for an hour, to run a Zoom type of meeting like this, because my work environment is at home is not appropriate for this. one of the things that's interesting is I know some people that have looked at tropical rentals. They're saying, hey, am I going to work from home? Why don't I just move my home to Bermuda for a month or 3 months or 6 months? I never really want to see snow again. I personally want to see snow. I end up living here in Whistler. As a matter of fact, it's snowing right now, and skiing is good. But some people don't like snow. They want that tropical rental, and they're saying, "Hey, you know what? Next year, if this is going on, I'm moving to Bermuda for 3 months," and they can do that. So it's really kind of different. So this is all combined with an expectation of an increase and decrease in productivity. Why am I saying increase and decrease in productivity? Well, some people can really work well from home. Others, they can't, because of what's going on in their particular environment or how they're wired. So employers, again, are looking at employment. They're looking at employees differently. They're looking at increase in productivity. They're looking at some areas where there's potentially a decrease in productivity because things take longer. But it's interesting as well because some employers are saying, hey, you know what? We're going to look at reduction in wages because our expenses are going to be down, but also productivity is going to be down, but the employees' expenses are going to be down. They don't have to commute. They don't have to do all of these wonderful things. So maybe we look at, changing wages and compensation around a bit. So possible reduction in wages is possible. This is, again, stuff that I've seen and floated around over the last year. So I think, you got an employee that has to go downtown every day and they have to dress a certain way and they have to, commute and they have to park and they have to, do all these wonderful things where all of a sudden you're spending an awful lot more time from home. You're working from home. You might be buying shirts, but you're not buying pants. That's for sure, because you're just on Zoom calls. And hold on a second, you're not spending any time on your car. And there's a whole bunch of reductions in your personal expenses as well as your productivity. So therefore, we're going to reduce your wage ever so slightly, something going on. So there's very much this push-pull working in the conventional environment going on. It's interesting because some employees never want to go back to their offices. Other employees can't wait to go back to their offices. Some employers don't want employees back. Some employers do want everybody back as soon as possible. It's really a unique environment. What does the future employee look like? What does the future environment look like? I think are critical questions. So benefits are equally important to include in the discussion, but I think it's important that benefits come secondary. To start these discussions with your clients, it's about where they're going in the future and what their employment environment looks like, because there's no point of putting that square peg in the proverbial round hole, because it's just not going to work. I think it's important to have discussions with your clients about these hybrid type work environments and employment and what the future employee looks like to frame your discussion. And you got to discuss this from different points of view. You might be bringing some things up that they've never thought of. And I think that's where the value comes in, they haven't thought of some of these things. And because of your leadership and your knowledge and your wisdom, you're able to bring these discussions to their forefront and have these with them and look at you as a valuable resource. They look at you as a valued advisor. So it's important to have these discussions and from all sorts of different points of view. In addition to that, I think there's some changing in claim patterns that are going to be happening. Well, there's certainly some change in claim patterns that have happened in the last 12 months, but I think you're going to see some continued change in claim patterns. Well, claim patterns have certainly changed in the last year. Claims stopped for a few months. They really did. They really stopped for a few months, not necessarily drug claims, but a lot of ancillary health benefit claims stopped because you couldn't go to the chiropractor, the physiotherapist, or the massage therapist. You couldn't go to the dentist. So claims stopped for a few months. And, and then they ramped up again over time. But it's interesting because people's claim patterns have changed. They're not going to the doctor or they're not going to the physiotherapist or they're not going to the chiropractor as often as they may have potentially in the past. And they may not be going because they don't need to, or they may not be going because they don't want to, because they're limiting their exposure. But it's interesting because, March 16th claims dropped off and then they started picking back up again in June and July. But it's interesting. We're still at the at the end of January, we're at the 90% of the pre-COVID levels today. So again, back to my argument, too little, too late, too much, too soon from the insurance companies. Well, we just proved it, that it's still going on, but you, again, read that article. But when we're talking about, or read the article, or one of the articles that we published, and you'll understand what I'm saying here. Anyways, mental health mental health is becoming a huge issue. We're looking at redesigning benefit plans. So you've got mental health practitioners in its own silo. Instead of just being lumped in with paramedical services, it's just in its own benefit silo. Really popular, great way to add value. Again, attend our mental health session, which will be coming up in early March. Telehealth. I saw a stat the other day. Telehealth, you can dial 1-800-HELP-ME-DOCTOR, or you send a text on your app, and you can get to see a medical practitioner right away. That's up 5,600%, 5,600% in the last 12 months. EAPs are becoming more and more popular and more important. Wellness programs are certainly on the rise. Keeping people moving, keeping people active. It's all about mental wellness and keeping people, strong as individuals and valued employees. So all of these things are important. So future claim patterns, I think you're going to see things changing because you're not seeing people go to the doctor. They might be just using their app on their phone, to solve their problems. They're not going to the physiotherapist. But is this easier with remote employees? So the change in patterns, are for a whole host of reasons, but it also might be easier for remote employees to claim in certain ways. And when you think about it, you can have a 2 p.m. massage and a 10:30 a.m. dental cleaning. No more walk of shame. If your job requires you to be at your desk, and all of a sudden, you're leaving for a 2 p.m. massage and someone says, "Hey, where are you going?" You're not having to do that walk of shame. It's as simple as that. It's kind of interesting. You can just log off and it's totally acceptable. I've got another, something going on. No one's judging anymore. So it's the change in patterns are going to certainly happen. Easier to claim. Is it going to be easier to claim? It's certainly possible, but it's going to be easier to claim because of this change in opportunity. As well as that, I think there's more and less opportunity for fraud. There could be more depending on in certain circumstances, there's more opportunity. There's certainly less opportunity depending on plan design and so on. So it's, there's desperate times call for desperate measures. There's a lot of change going on in this world, and there's potential for more claim abuse without a doubt, in my opinion, unless you deal with, the appropriate plan design to prevent those types of things from happening. So it's, there's a lot of things going on, and it's important to look at this from a number of different perspectives. One of the things that's interesting, and I've had some conversations with a couple of different clients, is they're saying, hey, it's too easy to claim, or is it too easy to claim? Some are saying it's too easy to claim, so we really require doctor's notes now. And others are saying, no, we want to make it easier for our members or our employees to claim, so we want to remove doctor's notes. But again, these are discussions to have. There isn't an answer. Some employers are saying, yeah, you know what? It's way too easy. People are just taking advantage of it, and they're going to the massage therapist because they've got time. That's somebody's mindset. That's an employer's mindset. Or others are saying, hey, because people are working from home and they're stressed out because of all these changes, we want people to be able to get massage therapy. So how do we make it easier for them to get it? Number one. And number two, how do we increase the amount? So it really depends on where you're going and what the mindset is of the client, more importantly. So all of this, that we've talked about in the last 50 minutes, 50 minutes, is food for thought. There's no right or wrong answers. It's really just food for thought. There's no right or wrong answers. It's just your client or your prospect's answers that matter. I think your job is to help, is to ask questions and steer the conversation so your client understands where it is that they're going and where they can go in the future that matters. There's no right or wrong answer. It's just what your clients and prospects answer that matters. So let's talk about a quick review to frame the future conversations you're having with your client and your prospect. Well, the new virtual workspace. What does it look like, Mr. and Mrs. Employer? What does your future employee look like with this new workspace? And, lead that conversation. Are we talking about contractors? Are we talking about all remote employees? Do you care where they're working from? Does it matter where they're working from? What area code they're in? It doesn't matter if they get up in the middle of the night. It's interesting. My son one of my sons is attending university right now. And he is doing it all remotely. And he goes to a school here in British Columbia called Quest University, and they do an awful lot of teamwork. And he was on, with one of his classes, was doing a team exercise. And the team exercise, one of the members of his team was in Dubai, and one of the members of his team was in Southern California, and one of the members of his team was here in Whistler. So it's kind of interesting. You got people from around the world, right? But what does this workspace look like? And the workspace is could be very, very different, and the employee makeup could be extraordinarily different. So I think it's important to frame that conversation, the new virtual workspace, but really is, what does the future employee look like? Second thing is, with respect to remote employees, what benefits matter to them? And I think you're going to see a shift if all of a sudden I'm working from home all the time. I think certain benefits free parking at the office isn't really going to bother me anymore. I don't really need it. And especially if I'm only coming in once every 3 weeks or something along those lines. Well, what's going to matter to me is, if I get an office tech expense, what time zones I've expected to be participating in meetings in, what type of flexibility is offered. Can I work from remote locations and far away remote locations? Hybrid work environments. Who's doing the work? One size does not fit all. I think this is where you can add a great deal of value as well to your clients, and especially in these hybrid work environments where you've got some companies where some people are working in a physical environment and a lot of others aren't. Well, one size, one benefit plan does not fit all. Let's talk about groups within the group. Simple as that. Changing claim patterns, easier, harder, fraud, COVID fear, all the stuff going on. It's very, very real. So it's important that your clients are aware of potential claim patterns changing, and what their philosophy is on that, and where their mindset is, and what lens they're looking at it through, because some people are extraordinarily interested in making it easier, and some people are extraordinarily interested in making sure that if a person has a claim, they really need to have a claim. So they've got to jump through a couple of hoops. So it depends on the employer. It depends on the lens in which they're looking at their future through, but it's important to certainly ask these questions, again, from that one size fits all. We spent close to an hour together. Visit thebenefitstrust.com. Check it out. Lots of things going on there. Check out the Advisor Resource Center. Lots of tools there as well. So we encourage you to check that out. And we're happy to continue this conversation with you. Let us know if we're crazy. Let us know if you think we're on side or if you think we're off side. We get a lot of positive feedback when we ran this session the first time, which was great. We want to get your feedback from it. We're going to send you a very short survey, which we want to get your feedback. So let us know on how we did. And if you also want to see future subjects covered, we're happy to talk to you about those as well. We want to take this opportunity on behalf of all of us at the Benefits Trust, all of us that are working in our offices and working remote and working from various locations across the country. We want to thank you for your time and attention and your feedback to create this presentation and give us the opportunity to deliver to you. Lots of people on the call today, so we thank you for all that participated. You're going to receive a CE credit for your participation today, as well as being signed up for a Trusted Advisor newsletter, and hopefully Mike can link a copy of that Too Little, Too Late, Too Much, Too Soon article as well. But the important thing to note is, again, these conversations are critical. These conversations are critical. If you don't have these conversations with your clients, somebody else will. If you don't have these conversations with your clients, somebody else will. I talked to Dave Patriarch again from CGIB, the Canadian Group Benefits Brokers, cgib.ca. Visit that. This is the biggest thing that he still goes on about, and I agree with him, is advisors. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about advisors in general are not talking to their clients about things that matter like this, what their future employee looks like. It's as simple as that. They're not doing it. So big thank you from all of us at the Benefits Trust. We've been on the phone for 55 minutes right now, or been on the call for 55 minutes. That's close enough to an hour. Remember, I don't have the answers. I don't have a magic wand. There's no magic benefit formula. Your clients and prospects need you. Today more than ever, it's time to lead. All right. That's really what our philosophy is, especially with this subject. But I think it's important to find out what your future employee looks like in your client's mind's eye, and where they want to go. It's as simple as that. It's about their future. This is a period of rapid change. This is a period of immense change. And it's the best time to prospect. It's the best time to serve your client. It's the best time to add value to your client. So do that. And you do that by having really, really great and meaningful conversations. I hope today's been of value. Thanks again for your participation. We're doing another session tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Make sure you jump on that if you have time. And if you don't, check out our website, and we will be reaching out to you through our Trusted Advisor newsletter and some of our blogs about upcoming future conversations that we will certainly be having. Thanks for your time, and we look forward to speaking with you soon. Bye for now.